30 projections in 30 days going into the 2024 regular season for the New York Mets as we continue our month-long deep dive into the Mets' 40-man roster. Today we are talking about a man who will have a huge spotlight on him all season, Mark Vientos. Since the universal DH was implemented, the Mets have really struggled to find a consistent piece at that position. This year, the DH conversation will direct a huge spotlight to graduated prospect Mark Vientos. Last year, throughout scattered playing time, Vientos showed some shades of his power upside, slashing .211, .253, .367 with 9 home runs and a 69 weighted runs created plus in 233 plate appearances. Although the results weren't completely there overall, Vientos' batted ball data continued to deem very promising going forward, landing in the top 10% in average exit velocity, max exit velocity, hard hit rate, and barrel rate. In addition to that, Vientos' overall discipline and pitch selection has a lot of room to improve, with a majority of his contact and chase rates all landing in the league's bottom 10% last season. On the other side of the ball, Vientos was giving extended looks at third base and first base last year. At third base, his known liable skill set was on full display, with a -4 defensive run saved and a -2 outs above average in just 153 innings logged at the position. With room to improve defensively, Vientos' main call to value will continue to be his bat. Going into a 24-year-old season, Vientos is expected to get a full consistent look at first base, third base, and DH this season, hoping to prove himself as a strong power source going forward for the New York Mets.
He's a guy we've been talking about for a long time, even before he got here, about what his role would be, because we knew about the defensive shortcomings. And I think with Mark, really, it's still all a matter of playing time. I mean, that's what we said all season long last year was, if you want to know what he is, let him play full time, especially at the DH position where you were getting no production. Obviously, there was some, what do you want to call it, like political reasons or other reasons from up top why it was not allowed to happen. If Mark Vientos got the consistent playing time, we'd have a much better idea of how the Mets should have approached the DH position this offseason, because had they known the kind of player he was, they'd be like, all right, then we need to upgrade. But they're like, oh, maybe there's still something there. And, I just find it interesting that, like, when he got to play full time in the last month of the season, that's where you saw the consistent power. I mean, we know that he has power from watching in the minor leagues. So it's just a matter of, if he gets consistent playing time, then he could give you consistent production. So obviously this is a massive year for him, no doubt about it. And I'm looking forward to it. I just want to see, what kind of player he is, because I've seen him every time they set him down, he plays awesome. So I just want to see at least most of that translate over to the big leagues. And again, he has the power. It's just a matter of being consistent, not hitting the ball into the ground.
The guy with probably the most pressure on him going into the season in September, when that guy, the blubber walrus got sent to jail, and he's got some time to play. You saw some power, but again, throughout his whole minor league career, Carson and I, we've said he wasn't a third baseman, and he's a DH. And I do, I guess, appreciate that the Mets are still trying to let him play third base to have some value, even though it's kind of like the other guy just hurting you defensively. He has the power potential. That's what we've seen throughout the minor leagues. It's just, can he make enough contact to show that power potential? Because there's so much swing and miss. And yes, do we need some of that in the Mets lineup? Of course. We have a bunch of guys who have, who make contact with baseball and it goes about 69 miles an hour. And that's about it. But again, when he does make contact, it's great. And similar with Beatty, they've passed on great options. Again, we were pounding the damn table for Jorge Soler. I've been pounding. He should have been traded a couple years ago. And, we were competing for World Series. He should have been shipped. But, again, that ship has sailed. He's got a lot of pressure on him because, again, even though there's still free agent market, there's still guys who would actually help the Mets in the DH position. But they're banking on this kid to take and at least produce equal the value of what some of the projections for those guys on the market are. Will it happen? I'm going to, of course, being me and knowing how the Mets, which usually always end up, and probably ain't going to be good. But again, If he makes enough contact, he's got enough pure power to be a productive DH. It's just a question of can he make enough contact to show it.
Yeah, I mean, we still have to see a little bit more from Mark Vientos at the major league level. But, we saw it firsthand, mainly because of a man who now shall not be named. Every single time when he actually showed some actual production, he would get benched the next day, or he was slated to get benched the next day. We need to see Mark Vientos every single day if they actually are going to commit to him as a possible DH option before they address it at the trade deadline. Now, as for Vientos, as the batted ball data, the overall profile, it's solid. It's great. There's a lot of promise in it, but we need to see a little bit more consistency. Can see what he is at a certain profile, because there's a lot of potential as to where, maybe he doesn't need to pull the ball to give you incredible raw power because he hits the ball so freaking hard. But then also you have some of these consistencies where he's pounding the ball into the ground a little bit. So we need to see what type of hitting profile he does have so we can address it at the trade deadline later in the season. I do like the insurance that they lined up behind him, obviously bringing back DJ Stewart, G-Man Choi, Luke Voigt. Those are some pieces there that we talked about them with DJ Stewart as well. And that's what is really going to come down to with filling in a DH position that has been really tough to evaluate for the Mets, which has been very unproductive since the universal DH was implemented. As for Vientos projections, I want to remind everybody that projections are not predictions. They are benchmarks of the player's current specific percentile outcome based on predictive data and results. For my projections, I decided to go with their 75th percentile outcome because even though typical player projections are from the 50th percentile, I wanted to have a median between sustainability and upside. It also gives you a decent way to identify who I'm high on and who I am low on going into this season. Mark Vientos this year, I have getting 416 plate appearances, slashing 234, 304, 446, with 18 home runs, 57 runs batted in, a 106 weighted runs created plus, and a wins above replacement of 0.5.
If I'm getting a 106 WRC plus, about around 20 homers, 60 RBIs, better than what we've seen at the DH position, is it amazing? No. But again, it's serviceable, especially for the pile of monkey shit we've dealt with at the DH position. I mean, it's not bad. It's productive. Again, it's an above average player, which we've not had in that DH position since its inception. So, of course, would I love more, but it's a solid, especially for him, the strikeout rates. I could see it even higher, but again, it's about what it could be. The walk hasn't really showed much of the walk percentage yet, but again, about 20 homers, 60 RBIs. You can count that as a solid season. That would not be a season to be like, all right, he's our DH going forward. It'd be a win for him, especially all the pressure he does have on him.
I'm with Andrew. I would take that kind of season for him. I think the home runs, they could be a little higher. I'm not saying they should. I'm saying they could. I feel that he has that kind of power where he could outdo that. But I think also to take in mind is that this would be his first full season. So I think that if you're talking about an above average hitter with pretty good power at, like Andrew said, a position we've really, really struggled at in his first full season, I think that's really good, because then you're on an age 24 season. Meanwhile, as much as I'm clamoring for JD Martinez, because I love JD Martinez, was he 38 now? So, I mean, that age gap of, he's still yet to reach his full potential and he's constantly improving and then eventually becomes that true DH. That'd be a really good season to build upon and be okay, this guy can stay. He has a role for this team. We could figure something out because the bat is there. Whereas some of these other guys, someone we've talked about before, we're still not sure if that bat is quite there. So I think that, just knowing that you have another guy that is major league caliber is really important to know when it comes to these prospects.
Projections are actually pretty weird for Mark Vientos throughout because you have one system in Steamer that really, really loves him at a 108 where I have him. Then you have the Bat X or Bat also putting him at an 87 bat, not even close to what you want power production at 397 slugging. The highest home run total is from Zips, which is 20 home runs for him. Every single projection system that you see from Mark Vientos is the fact that we just have not seen a consistent amount of playing time from him. So it's really hard to flip heads or tails of what he's actually going to sustain. So there is going to be a wide range of projections. Some projection systems are going to like him, some won't. For me, I think I was fairly friendly. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think that his power definitely translates very well to the major league level. I think he will succeed from, getting a full rookie year. Obviously, the question that I do want to ask here is Mark Vientos' playing time. Now, obviously, most likely, he's going to be at DH 6 times out of 7 every single week in this lineup at DH because they are seeming to give the leash to him. Now, my question is, do you see the need for another DH such as DJ Stewart, G-Man Choi?
For me, yeah, you don't need another DH. Again, if you're running out, especially in this type of season, Vientos is the DH, Beatty's the third baseman. You're going to have Wendell and you're going to have take a bench spot. But at this point, and especially how David Stearns has preached versatility and, run prevention or whatever, I don't need to load the bench up with a bunch of cinnamon buns. I'd like, some versatility, some, speed guys, especially in this type of season. It should be Vientos at DH and having those guys in AAA. Like, you sign them to split contracts and minor league deals. That's where they should be. Get value out of all 26 men on your roster, and that's the problem that we've seen in the Mets in the past of not using every single position and getting value out of every person on that 26-man roster. If he's the DH, he's the DH. The other fat guys can sit in Syracuse and wait for their opportunity if Vientos were to fall.
The way I look at it is that when you compare Vientos to a guy like DJ Stewart or G-Man Choi, Luke Voigt, whoever, even if Vientos is struggling, I still want to see him play full-time because I think that there's obviously way more potential in Mark Vientos than those other options. Now, if the Mets are somehow actually in the running, then I'll be under a lot more pressure. Like, okay, we're trying to win. So if Voigt is doing tremendous in Triple H, sure, he should take the job. But if the season isn't going well, I think the development of the young player should be the top priority.
We'll see what happens of how long the leash is going to be for Mark Vientos because David Stearns has made it pretty public. He talked about how he is going to allow there to be growing pains with some of the young players. He's going to let them go through that, and he's going to give them the leash. So we'll see how long that leash is going to be, how long those growing pains will be at the major league level for somebody like Mark Vientos in a position where the Mets have needed since it was implemented. So we'll see, but we all know that there is going to be a huge spotlight on Mark Vientos this year in the Mets lineup to see if he can be a productive MLB hitter consistently.